Hi, everybody. Happy Pride. Thanks for joining me today in the Locher Room on Wednesday, June 1st. I'm Alan Locher. Emmy Award-winning actor Greg Rikaart joined the cast of the CBS daytime drama The Young and the Restless in 2003, where he has played the oft misguided yet lovable Kevin Fisher ever since. In 2005, Greg won the Daytime Emmy for his work and has been a multiple Emmy nominee in the years since. In addition to his role on Young and the Restless, Greg has a Daytime Emmy-nominated stint on Days of Our Lives as Leo Stark, making appearances on both Days and the Peacock limited series Beyond Salem. In addition to his work in daytime, he has had recurring roles on Dawson's Creek, as well as Major Crimes, and appeared on other series including Modern Family, Bones, and The Closer. Greg is a recipient of the Human Rights Campaign Visibility Award for his advocacy work and has hosted fundraisers for the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, GLSEN, I believe, if I pronounce that correctly, helping to ensure that any LGBTQ adolescent has a safe space in school free of bullying. It is my pleasure to welcome Emmy Award winner Greg Rikaart to the Locher Room. Hey, Greg.
Hi, Alan.
Thanks so much for being here. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah, me too. It took a minute to get it scheduled.
It did, but I'm glad it worked out for June 1st. I can't think of a better way to celebrate today. We were talking, you're a New York City native. Talk about your childhood growing up on Staten Island.
Let's see, it was pretty, it was pretty nice. I went to New York City public schools. I lived in a pretty quiet neighborhood where, we all just sort of rode our bikes in the street, and I don't know. It was, Staten Island, as many people know, sort of has a small town feel to it, and I grew up there in the 80s, and it was lovely and charming, and of course, wrought with like typical adolescent angst and stuff. But all in all, it was pretty secure and fun.
Is there one thing, looking back on growing up there that stands out as like something you loved? I don't know, pizzeria.
Oh yeah, there's, it's funny. I have I have an almost 6-year-old, and we live in a quiet neighborhood here. But the thought of allowing him to ride his bike in the street is just such a foreign concept, because first off, no one else does it, and again, there's not a ton of vehicular traffic, but there's some, and I wonder if that's sort of a lost thing in many towns, where kids also are sort of married to their devices in a lot of ways, and maybe aren't spending as much time outdoors as they used to. But what I used to do as a kid, and sometimes when I think about it, I'm just amazed at the freedom I had, right? I couldn't have been more than like 10 or 11 years old, and I would get on my bike without a helmet, because no one wore helmets in the 80s, and I would ride from my house. The middle of Staten Island is very hilly. I would ride over the hills and down towards the beaches, which was like probably maybe an 8 or 10 mile bike ride. And I would go down to the beaches. I would like get some pizza and probably like save a quarter so I could like call home and let my parents know I was okay. And then I would, spend the whole day on my bike, like miles and miles from home. And it was never, questioned whether or not I was all right or safe. Sometimes I would take my bike up to the ferry and just ride into the city, and, so that was fun.
I can't imagine.
Now that I talk about it, but at the time it was fun.
I can't imagine what parents, really without the phone, being able to keep track of their children. I mean, there was a lot of trust back then.
I guess so, right?
Yeah. Where did your love of the arts begin?
I guess I had a drama teacher in middle school who, and I always loved movies and TV, and I think in middle school is probably when I first started performing, and I would definitely credit, her name was Mrs. McCormick, and I would certainly give her some credit. And then when I was in high school, my high school had a speech and debate team, and we did this thing in New York that exists in some places, but not everywhere, called forensics, which was basically interpretation of literature. So we would take pieces of plays, only like a 10 or 15 minute chunk, and we would compete against other schools. And so it wasn't like being on stage and performing a play or a musical, but we would perform almost every weekend. And I think that really sort of solidified my interest in the arts. But I also,
I love that.
Yeah, but I also had, a traditional upbringing, and I think the expectation was that I would go to college and get a job and sort of follow a more traditional path. And it wasn't until I was winding down at college that I realized I didn't want to follow a traditional path, and that if I was going to pursue a career in the arts, this was the time to do it, when I was 21 or 22 and, free from responsibility. So I graduated and drove out to California, and the rest is history.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you study at Villanova?
I was a political science major, and I had and then I took a bunch of theater classes. I don't remember, but I don't think I had enough credits for a theater minor. But political science was my major. I think I had a minor in communications. And then I spent a semester on Capitol Hill interning for a congressman in 1997, maybe.
What drove that?
I was and continue to be interested in politics, and it was my junior year, and that was the year that people were studying abroad, which I didn't particularly want to do, but felt like leaving campus since a lot of my friends were leaving. So that's what drove that. And then, I spent a semester interning for, I applied to work for this congresswoman named Susan Molinari, who was the congresswoman from Staten Island. And then while I was sort of in the process of applying, she vacated her seat, and then I ended up working for this guy named Vito Fasella, who took over for her. And it was a fun experience, different time. He was, DC and politics in the 1990s were quite different from what they are today, as you know.
Absolutely. What's the biggest lesson you think you learned during that time?
That we can be civil, and you can sit down with somebody who you could have a ton of ideological differences with and still be cordial and kind and respectful in the way you air your differences. Unlike what happens now on social media,
Yeah, completely. You said you grew up watching a lot of TV and movies. Was there a TV show or movie that maybe inspired your love of the
for sure. I was a huge fan. I was probably too young to be watching it, but I was a huge fan of Moonlighting.
Yeah, great show.
And also, I think first of all, there was nothing else like it on television, right? They broke the fourth wall. It was really clever. It was a drama, but it was funny. And they just seemed like they were having fun. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to sort of just play pretend all the time and have fun doing it. So,
and the sparring that those two,
I know,
it's that the scripts created for them.
Yeah,
I could see why you would, And
all of that none of that was improv. Like the scripts for a 1 hour show, they were twice as long as scripts for other shows because there was so much double talk and they were constantly speaking over each other. And they were both incredible, and I loved that show. I still do.
Yeah, me too. I would love to watch that if it's on streaming somewhere.
There's a way to find it. It's not someone uploads it to YouTube or whatever. But, so every once in a while I'll go back and watch some of my favorite episodes.
Even what was it, Alice Beasley, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Armstrong.
Yeah. So great. So great. What, coming from the East Coast, what made you choose the West Coast rather than, since New York City was so close, what made you drive west?
Well, I had a friend in college who I went to college in Villanova, which is in Philadelphia, and I had a friend from college who was from LA, and we'd come out to visit her a few times. And I think even before coming out, LA always just had this appeal to me from, I think, the version of it that I'd seen on TV and in the movies. And I think it's also a case of like the grass being greener. I had never lived in Manhattan, but I did know what it was like to live in New York, and I think I just was hungry for something different and really wanting to be independent and on my own in a big way, which I don't think living 20 minutes from home would accomplish.
Yeah, you could always go home for dinner.
Yeah. Also, and I think I anticipated that I would be struggling, and I always used to say that when I would work like a double shift at the restaurant, I would come home, I would be exhausted, and like, my soul would be crushed. It's not really rewarding work when you're waiting tables, but I would like park my car, and the building I lived in had a hot tub, and I wouldn't even walk up to my apartment. I would just take my shoes off, put my feet in the hot tub, and I was, not a bad place to struggle.
Yeah.
Easier than New York, for sure.
Yeah. What restaurant do you remember?
California Pizza Kitchen.
Love that.
At the Beverly Center. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there.
Right before I started like booking work, there was another restaurant that was sort of more of a fine dining place, and I got a job there. And I remember being annoyed with myself for not doing it sooner because the bills were higher, the tips were better, and I did a fraction of the work. And I worked there for a few months too, but that restaurant's not around anymore. And then I started getting acting work. So,
and then you got, Young and the Restless across the street from the Beverly Center, basically.
Yeah, right.
So not bad.
Yeah.
Talk about landing the role of David on Dawson's Creek. Did you have any hesitation in taking that back in 2002?
Let's see. I don't know. I don't think I did at the time because it didn't feel like I was being a pioneer in any way. It was the last season of that show. There was a gay character who was a series regular who I think had gone through at least 2, if not 3, boyfriends, and there was gay characters on other shows. So I didn't feel like a pioneer. I wasn't concerned about being typecast or anything because that was my first job, and and maybe I was just too young or naive to really think about that. But kind of going back to CPK, I was working on a Friday, and that's Friday afternoon, and I got the call while I was working at the restaurant that I had booked that job. So, Friday working, waiting tables, and then Monday flying first class to North Carolina to start my first episode. So it's crazy how it can shift literally in a heartbeat.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Do you remember your reaction?
Yeah. I mean, I had, up until that time, I was getting close on a lot of jobs. So there was a lot of, I tested for a bunch of pilots where it would come down to me and 1 or 2 other guys. And, it's basically like they're dangling the keys in front of you saying like, this is the thing that's going to change your life. Just kidding. And so, because then I wouldn't book them. So I just remember being really excited because it felt like it was a game changer, and I had been working really hard. I don't think I was prepared when I first got here, because acting and auditioning are 2 completely different skills, and I was very green and probably not doing my best on a bunch of auditions. And but then by the time that I did start getting close to jobs, I was sort of in that zone, and and it is hard when you're close and you're not getting it. And I had friends around me at the time who were really starting to succeed, and I was jealous in that way where I was happy for them, but I also wanted it for myself. And so yeah, I just remember being really, really, really excited and felt like maybe prematurely that it was a game changer. Like I burned my, I think I either threw it away or I burned my apron. And then after it was over, I was like, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know for sure that this means I'm going to just keep working now. I probably should not burn that bridge in case I need to go back. And I would have had to go back had it not been for Young and Restless, because I did 7 episodes of that show and it was great. And I really got comfortable, I think, being in front of a camera in a way that was more. I had way more experience on that show than I had working like small jobs that I had up to that point. And then, but then it was over, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I had saved a little bit of money, but I didn't, but not enough to really sort of coast for too long. And then I feel like it was within a month or two of coming back to LA that Y&R came along. So
it's incredible. What stands out from the entire Dawson's experience for you?
I have a lot of really fun memories. Like Jensen Ackles and I were flying from LA to North Carolina. We were, I think it was both of our first episodes. And yeah, and so we were on the same flight from LA. It was we had a layover somewhere. And then once we got on that second flight from wherever we had landed to Wilmington, I think at that point we realized, hey, maybe we're going to the same place. And so he was my first friend that I made there. And he was fantastic. And then I worked with an actress named Bianca Kalick, and she and I have, kept in touch over the years. And yeah, I mean, everyone was lovely and fun. They were all, it was the last season of that show, so they were kind of eager to be moving on. And I sort of showed up just sort of, wide-eyed. And yeah, I mean, everyone was lovely. There was never, I never had a bad experience there. I remember Josh Jackson directed one of the episodes, which was really fun. And yeah, it was
It's lucky to have that as a pretty, your first big break.
Yeah, I think I for sure think that's true. Also, working with a bunch of people who were my age was probably helpful too. And yeah, it was a great first real job, if you will.
I love that. Well, 19 years ago, you landed the role of Kevin. Do you remember the audition or screen test?
Yeah, I remember it clearly. So I get back from North Carolina. I had, at the time, I was in my first quote unquote serious relationship, and that was coming to an end. And I was really heartbroken and young and vulnerable. And then this audition came up for this gig on Y&R. And as it was first written, Kevin was supposed to be around for I've told the story before, but like 10 or 20 episodes. He was just there for the summer to wreak some havoc in Lily's life. And then I think he was either going to leave or die or whatever. And the audition scene was Kevin confronting Lily. He's just found out that she told somebody, he doesn't know who. She's told somebody that they've had this inappropriate relationship, and he was 25, she was 15, and he could get in a lot of trouble. So there was a line where I'm asking her who she told, and she's saying that she can't remember. And the line is scripted. It was like, "Damn it, Lily, will you think?" And it was exclamation, 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 all caps. So he's yelling at her. And I had my script in my hand, but I had run it enough times that it was memorized. Here, wait, I'm going to get a prop. My script is in my hand, but I have it folded like this. And when I deliver that line, I'm like, "Damn it, Lily, will you think?" I smacked my hand with the paper, and it was more than one page. So it made a really loud noise. And I remember out of the corner of my eye seeing like the producers in the room kind of like jump back. And I thought in that moment, I was like, okay, don't fuck this up from now until the end. And I think this is going to be your job. And I've never, up to that point, I never had that experience. I've never had that experience since. I've certainly left auditions being like, I just nailed that. I left it on the table. And if I'm their guy, I'm their guy. But, that was the only time I knew. I was like, that's my job. And there you have it.
I love that. You were talking earlier, you know, getting to California and you know, the struggle of auditioning. Is there something, you know, you look back, or if somebody's watching who wants to be an actor, something you wish somebody had, you know, enlightened you about, you know, to prepare?
No, actually, because I feel like, and I can sort of like, I'm skipping ahead, but I'll go back. But there was a period, you know, when I lost my job after, I want to say it was about 15 years, where I was, you know, I went through a dark place where I was pretty despondent and terrified at what my future looked like, right? Because I've worked a little bit outside of the soap world, but I didn't have a, you know, there's no door that opens where you're not closing a door somewhere else. And I think that a lot of doors that used to be open to me when I was 25, at 40 were closed. And so I certainly had a lot of fear and, you know, concern about whether or not I'd work again. And then here we are 4 or 5 years after that, and I barely have a minute to myself because I am balancing 2 jobs and have never been happier or busier professionally, and it's all fantastic. However, if someone had someone did, Eileen Davidson, on my last day at YNR in 2017, and she just reminded me of this at her, we just celebrated her 40th anniversary at Restless.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
Yeah, and I adore her. And she came over to me and said, do you remember I told you that this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to you, and it's going to open up opportunities? And when she said it, I certainly didn't fully take it in or wasn't capable of that. So getting back to what you were just talking about,
yeah,
like there's no answer. Like you have to just, the only thing I would say is like work hard, but your path is going to be your path. It's not going to be what mine was. It's not going to be everyone's. But just if you're prepared and you're ready to put in the work, you know, I think you'll get there. But you also have to live it. You have to have the heartbreak of getting this close a bunch of times before you finally get the gig. Or, you know, Rob will say, my husband, who's a writer, you know, he'll tell aspiring writers, you're not going to sell your first script. You're not going to sell your first 10 scripts, but just keep writing. And, you know, but it's, again, you have to live the experience to get the wisdom of what it's like on the other side. Does that make sense?
100%. I think it's great. And you're right. Everyone's experience is different. You know, it's how you take it all in, you know?
Yeah. And you really, the other thing I've learned is like, you really figure out what you're made of, and you really grow, I think, during the hard times. Because when life is easy, it's like anybody can do that. It's how you navigate the challenges, you know?
And there will be challenges no matter what career path you take.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just professionally, it's like life.
Oh,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Were you a soap fan as a younger kid?
No, only because, you know, there was no DVR, and my mom, I think, would watch on occasion, but was not you know, got to set the VCR at 11:30 every day. Yeah. So the clearest memory I have is that if I was ever home from school, I would watch Price is Right. And then I think if I was home from school, I was sick, and I would probably be too like tired or lazy to change the channel. And then inevitably I probably watched some Young and Restless, but not enough to remember, you know, storylines or characters or anything like that.
So Kevin was a short-term role. How soon into working did you realize that they were offering you a larger contract?
See, now those details get a little fuzzy. I feel like after my audition and they offered me the job, I think they initially said they wanted me for 3 months, and then maybe thought, oh, this could go on a little bit longer. So then I signed a contract for a year. But I still think, as I remember it, having spoken since with Kay Alden and Jack Smith, who were the writers at the time, I still think the plan was that Kevin was not going to be around long term. And then, as luck would have it, we had a fan event in August of, I guess, 2003, which was like 2 months after I had started. And they sat Christian and I next to one another. And depending on who you talk to, it was either Jack Smith or Asia Smith, his daughter. Somebody said, "Oh, I never noticed how much those guys favor each other." And so then I think that hatched the idea of what if Kevin and Michael were brothers?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love that that came from a fan event.
Right? I know.
Yeah. I don't feel like I've heard, daytime stories coming from that type, many different events in people's lives and things, but a fan event, I don't know that I've.
Yeah, because we had never crossed paths on camera, and I'm maybe at the time they were trying to figure out something new to do with Christian also, and which was the gift of all gifts. I mean, it's the gift that continues to give, So.
Yeah. How would you describe Kevin today?
Evolved. He's like all of us, right? If you look back on yourself from 19 years ago versus who you are today, I think he's certainly mellowed out, and I think learned from a lot of his mistakes. But I think the essence of who he is of course still who he is, and I think that if faced with something, I still think the danger of him sort of crossing over and doing something unethical or illegal or dangerous still is in his DNA. But I think he certainly has a better lid on things than he used to. He's got responsibilities now and a family and all that. So I think it would take a little more to get him to not stay on the path he's on. But so reformed, but still at his core who he is.
When you started, I mean, I know you mentioned being let go after 15 years. Could you have imagined when you signed on that you would have been there for those 15 years?
No. And with every milestone that I passed, when I was there for 5 years and then 10 years, I always said, whenever this ends, I'll have nothing but gratitude, because who could have imagined that a job that should have lasted a month or so lasted this long? I had plenty of other feelings besides gratitude when it did end. But
I think many actors have felt the same way at that moment.
Look, I don't care what you do. There's never a good time to lose a job unless it's your choice to leave. So.
Right. Absolutely. Kevin's been paired with a number of leading ladies.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some? Emily O'Brien, Diana DeGarmo, and of course Elizabeth Hendrickson, to name a few.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, they're all amazing and wonderful. They all bring something different to the table. Emily was such a great fit for Kevin, especially at that time in his evolution. She was such a, they just complemented each other so well. They were both wacky and quirky, and I think because she was such a, because of who that character was, and she was, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a hippie, but she was who's someone that travels around and never stays in one place.
Like a vagabond kind
of? Yeah. But she had I feel like every episode they would reveal something new about her that I'm like, oh, you used to be a skydiving instructor. But there was constantly, so no matter what Kevin did or had done, I think she just accepted and loved him for who he was. And I think at that point in his transition into being this messy young guy into someone who is a little more mature and a little more responsible, I think she was a great partner for him. And I just adore Emily and love that we're having this second act together, and getting to work with her again is so fun. Diana was, it was such a thrill having her on the show. It was not that long after she had been on American Idol, and it was so clever too how they wrote that she had this terrible voice and that she couldn't sing, and totally playing against type. And then they did this one episode where we get to hear her sing through her father's perspective. So it's the first time that Diana got to sing like Diana is capable of singing. And it was so beautiful because, again, we all just heard this sort of like record scratching voice, and then we get to see what it sounds like from her in her dad's mind. And it was really beautiful. And she's lovely and fun and talented. And that was fun. And then I think Liz, I have such a special place in my heart for Liz. I think we have the longest journey. We've been together as a couple, I think longer than Emily or certainly Diana. And so, there's I think a love and respect both on camera and off that exists. And I think we've kind of grown up together because even before we were together, we were friends, and, we've both gotten married. We both have families and have left the show and come back to the show. And so, yeah, they're all wonderful. And I would be remiss if we didn't include Judith as one of my leading ladies.
I was go right ahead. On two shows.
Yeah. That's one of, I think, what is so fun about working in soaps is that there's such mutual respect from one show to the next that I think doing something like casting Judith as my mom, or there's been a few references. There was a reference on Days to Leo having dressed up as a chipmunk, which is just like, it's a fun like an homage to a different show where, again, I think it just speaks to just a way of respecting and also giving the audience something that might sort of make them smile.
Absolutely. I was just trying to think, like, I wonder, there's got to be, one of our fans must know how many actresses have played the mother to the same actor on different shows. Because I know for you, Vincent Irizarry, Marge Doucet played his mother on All My Children and Guiding Light.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think that helped get her that on All My Children because she played his mother on Guiding Light. But I wonder how many of those there are. But I mean, what a perfect thing and great opportunity for both of you.
Yeah, and also beyond it just being a fun little wink to the audience, on day it was a different dynamic between Leo and Diana than it is between Kevin and Gloria, but wasn't completely in a different ballpark that we couldn't sort of maneuver pretty quickly into what we were doing on Days, and there was no. We didn't miss a beat. There wasn't a second of like, oh, all right, let's sit down and chat a little bit so we can get to know each other, so we can have a comfort level on camera. That was all there. And Judith is just tremendous. I just adore her.
Which one is a better mother?
Oh God. That's like, which pollution is better? Yeah, neither of them are.
They're not winning Mother of the Year.
No, I would maybe say, Gloria maybe has a one or two more redeeming qualities, but that's that's a stretch.
Well, we mentioned Christian earlier. At that fan event, were you and Christian already friends?
We were friendly, sure, but I hadn't been there very long, and. But Christian, as you know, is just the life of the party and such a mensch. And the actor who is going to give anyone who's new like the warmest welcome. And so yeah, I knew him a little bit, but we weren't friends the way we are now.
I think I met you both for the first time in Vegas that weekend back in like 2005. I do remember.
That was we first met in Vegas. That was before the Emmys in New York.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh, and I meant to get it ready to show because we met in New York at the Emmys. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was Vegas might have been first. I don't really remember. But I was just going to say about Christian, I mean, I never laughed so hard. But my mother came to the Emmys in 2006.
Oh yeah.
Shortly before she was diagnosed with lung cancer, and Procter and Gamble provided me tickets for my mother and my sister. And my mother could barely speak because it had affected her at that point. But it was the time of her life meeting all of you, and the smile on her face in the picture with you and everybody else she met that night is something I won't ever forget. So thank you very much for that.
I remember you posted that picture, and
yeah.
So
talk about your relationship and friendship with Christian.
Well, when again, we were already chummy because, like I said, he's just so gregarious and welcoming. And then when we found out we were going to be brothers, he's also, in addition to those things, a brilliant and committed actor and puts in the work. And so I think part of why that relationship works so well on camera is because when we were first starting to work together, he was like, let's put in the work. So we spent a lot, we had a lot of dinners together and really like ran the hell out of these scenes and got really clear on what the dynamic was between Kevin and Michael. And I think before some things were even written, I think we had a vague idea of like, well, Kevin has all this, anger. I knew that there was a bad dad in the picture or not in the picture before that was ever the case. That sort of was something that helped me just figure out why he was able to mistreat women so easily. And, that was what had been the, what he was exposed to when he was little. And then I think with the age gap between Kevin and Michael, and Kevin's anger towards Michael probably meant that he felt abandoned by his brother, and things that all sort of got really well washed and fleshed out in scripts as the story began to unfold. But we made some of those things clear, and I think that all of it really played on camera, and they wanted to keep writing more of it. And then they brought in, our mom, and then, the family just got to keep growing, which was fantastic.
Are you always laughing on set?
Yeah. No. What I think really works is that, Christian is just, what you imagine or what you've seen, that's who he is. And sometimes like you're so in the mood for that and you just want to be around that. And sometimes it's like 6:30 in the morning and you haven't had coffee yet. And you're like, go away. So,
I haven't had my coffee. I can relate.
But he's also, and everybody's process is different. Christian can be bouncing off the walls, goofing off, then they yell action and he is in it and he is there 100%. And doing some fantastic work. Whereas me, like, I need a little bit of quiet. I need to kind of like focus before. So, so I love him and am often amused by him and love his company and his sense of humor. But there's for sure moments, which also plays into the brother relationship where I'm like, dude, leave me alone,
And that would totally be a brother relationship.
Yeah.
You'd be slamming the door. Get out of my room.
Yes.
Dinah was asking, do you have a favorite scene with him over the years?
Gosh, it'd be hard to pick one. I think one that stands out is certainly the episode where he talks me down from killing myself, which talks Kevin down from killing himself, because I remember we really sort of worked on those a lot, and I think they stand out for me because that was the episode I submitted the year I won the Emmy. But I mean, there's tons of other, even like the lighter stuff. Like when I love the storyline where I stole a lottery. I bought him a lottery ticket to thank him for something, and then it was a winning lottery ticket, and I stole it back. And again, like not super high stakes, but still fun. And then, when I came back to the show. When Josh took over and Kevin came back, I think that there's a really special place in my heart for those first scenes I had with him where Kevin has kidnapped Phyllis. She has escaped, and he has to come clean to Michael and tell him what he's done and why he's done it. And Christian is Michael is so irate with Kevin, and they're really fun scenes. But also, I think why I love those so much is that when I left, I don't think I ever anticipated circling back. And so having the opportunity to get to work with him again, I wasn't taking anything for granted, and I was really grateful. So,
what are you most proud of in 19 years with Kevin, playing that part?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the fact that I'm proud that I've been able to make a career out of this. I think I started working about 20 years ago, but most of my career has been on that show, on playing that role. So I'm really proud of that.
It's pretty great to say that
Yeah.
You started 20 years ago and to be doing a role for 19. You should be. That is something to be damn proud of. I would absolutely say that. Well, what do you remember? And the Emmy Award goes to Greg Rikaart. What do you remember?
It's something of an outer body experience, but I just remember being really nervous and anxious, and then almost like I felt boneless for a second. Like I was just sitting in my seat, being like, I can't believe that this is happening, and then having the wherewithal to know that I have to get out of my seat now and go up on stage and speak in front of a bunch of people. Certainly being very proud of that, and like proud, but also like it I don't want to, and it wasn't by any means, but that's not the pinnacle of my career or my time on Young and the Restless. But it is also, it's kind of amazing to me that the character shot right out of the gate, and shortly after being on the show, I won an Emmy, and that was pretty amazing. And then it's you've sort of kind of come back to earth a little bit at a time, because over the years I have since been nominated again and again. Mm-hmm. I've never won again, but that's okay. It's that's just the way it all goes. I think I'm also proud of when I think of his place on that show. I don't think anyone else does exactly what he does or what I do, and so I think I'm proud of kind of carving out a niche on a canvas where there's 30 some odd players.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have an Emmy nomination for Leo Stark has to be quite rewarding as well.
Yeah, that for sure, especially because that came at a time when I hadn't been there very long. So similarly, kind of like Kevin, where it's sort of he made quite an impact in not a lot of time, and that was great. And also, it's such a gift to get to play that role, who is quite different from Kevin, but still is memorable and elicits a reaction.
Absolutely. Karen, Dwight, Jacarius, everyone's commenting on Leo. They all love Leo. Jack, so happy to see Greg on days, and Jax absolutely believes Leo did fall in love with Craig.
No, I think he
did. It's crazy. I heard you describe Leo as the most fun.
I think he's I think I mean I can't say that one job is more fun than the other. I love being at Days. I love being at YNR. I think that the fun I have at YNR is a lot of that is off camera. Like I not that I'm not having fun on camera, but when I get to go there and I get to see people I've known for 19 years, that's just so fun, and I love all my coworkers there. I think Leo just gets to do some more outrageous stuff on camera, and so so that's why it's so fun. I mean, I get to hit on pretty much any man with a pulse in Salem.
I would say that's fun.
It is, trust me.
I would say that's fun.
And they're also game and fun, and yeah, it's a fun role to play because he's more outrageous, and he's a bad guy, but with like, but he's cheeky. He's not not really out to hurt you. He's just out to mess with you.
I love that word, cheeky. Eileen was so right. I mean, look at, getting to have the best of both worlds.
And she would know, right? Because, if anyone,
100. Yeah,
it's her. Yeah.
Seriously. Is there anyone at Y&R or Days you have yet to work with that you would really still love to?
I mean, I don't know that there's anyone at Y&R I really haven't worked with. I could never get enough of working with Michelle Stafford. And there's a fun history there where, she was just Daniel's mom, like my friend's mom, who was always kind of scary to me. And then now she's, we've had scenes where she's kind of, I've kidnapped her. I've done some terrible things to her. But, so she also treats me like I'm like a subject where I can kind of do like deeds for her. Remember, like we moved a dead body together and stuff. So I love that. Like I play Kevin is terrified of Phyllis, and she's just she's really fun to spar with. So I can never get enough of working with Michelle, even though I've gotten to a bunch, and that's a gift. At Days, I've worked with both of them, but I would love to get to work more with Deirdre and Drake, because they're the quintessential super couple. And let's see who else. I don't know. I have it pretty good over there. Particularly when we got to do that Phoenix storyline on the Beyond Salem stuff. Our foursome of Billy, Chandler, Zach, and myself, like that was, I think we're all really, really proud of the great stuff we got to do there. And I get to work with those guys a bunch. So, so that's great. And then, I love Martha Madison. It'd be fun to work with her. And
she's a doll.
Yeah, she's terrific.
Yeah, I really like her.
Yeah. So and I've had scenes with, not recently, but I have worked with John Aniston, who is he has like his delivery. If I could steal from him in every scene I do, it's so dry and everything he says is so funny. He's really wonderful.
That's awesome. Yeah. Cherie just said, I loved Kevin's speech at Tessa and Mariah's wedding.
Wow,
Happy Pride, Greg. That's pretty special that, Y&R, the first wedding, lesbian wedding, right?
Yeah, it was, and it's so well done. And I was grateful that I was given that speech. It really felt like I got to be a part of that sort of historical moment on the show, in more than just being a guest at the wedding. So
right,
that meant a lot to me. A little fun behind the scenes thing was we shot that wedding over 3 days, I want to say, or was it? No, it was 3 episodes in 2 days. And that speech was the last shot of our first long day. So we all got there, I think probably between 6 and 7 in the morning. And I delivered that speech at like 11 at night. And we were all spent. And I remember in rehearsal, Owen, our director for that episode, was like, remember, this is, and reminded me, and also the audience being like, I know it's late, but it's not 11 o'clock. We haven't been here 16 hours at the wedding. So let's kind of, find our energy reserves. And, but yeah, it was a really beautiful ceremony.
Right. And pivotal speech at that hour of the night. So everybody needs to pep up.
Yeah.
Is it true, I read this, that you acted opposite your husband on Young and the Restless?
I think maybe. Yeah, he did before he hung up his SAG card. He played he played like a photographer who was like stalking Colleen or something. I don't remember if we had scenes together, maybe.
Okay.
But he was on the show. He did like an episode or two on the show. Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary. You just celebrated 7 years marriage, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we've been together since 2000. I get this wrong all the time. 2005 or 6. I want to say 2005. Yeah. So, yeah, we've been together.
17.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, I honeymooned on Oahu and Kauai, but you got married on Maui. What was that? Just spectacular?
It was. I mean, yes, it was spectacular. I'm a little more of a pragmatist, so it was. We were not pregnant yet, but we were in the process of trying to have a baby, and we both had a week off from work. And I was like, "Oh, let's take a vacation." And in the planning of a vacation, I thought, "Should we get married?" Like it wasn't romantic, and no one got down on their knee. I think we were driving on the 101 or something. But to me, I was like, well, it'll just be easier when legally when the baby comes and things.
Yeah.
But I will say, like in the planning of it, which was minimal because we just eloped, but we hired like this, there's an elopement package at, there's a million wedding companies in Maui. And, but in writing something to say and in the planning of it, I was like, oh, I started to get excited. And then it wasn't until we had our baby shower for our son, where we had, 80 people in our backyard, 80 of our family and friends. And that I suddenly realized why people want to have big parties and celebrate the milestones, because, they don't come along every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was and my son's baby shower was the first time I was at a big party like that, where, my son was really the guest of honor, but he wasn't here, where we were the guests of honor. And I was like, oh, this is meaningful. And, and I understand it in a way I didn't used to. So what started out as something that was just pragmatic and will be good for tax returns and, birth certificates, is also exists for other, more romantic reasons too.
Absolutely. And your son Monty's going to turn 6 this month.
Yeah. In 12 days.
12 days. How has fatherhood changed your life?
Gosh, how hasn't it? It sort of takes your heart and just explodes it into a million pieces, and you find depth and levels of feelings that you never were capable of feeling before, good and bad. Like I have been more challenged by him and angry at him and myself for not knowing how to deal with him than I've ever been at anyone else. But also the joy and the love that I get from him is second to none.
I bet. What's he into at this age?
Pokemon. All Pokemon all the time. And I don't know if you know anything about Pokemon. But
I don't. Don't ask me any questions. I don't.
Don't ask me any questions. Unlike, because we went through trains and then it was superheroes and dinosaurs. And unlike all of those things where, even if they weren't my passions, I had a frame of reference. I know what a dinosaur is. I know what a train is. This is like learning a language, a complicated language, because there's thousands of characters, and that it's a language I never wanted to learn. And but that's what he's into. And so, I think we strike that balance of, hey, this is your interest, and yes, we talk to us, and I know you want to connect and bond, but we also reach a limit where we're like, okay, now you can go play with your Pokemon cards inside. But it's cool because each it kind of helps with reading and math too, because each character has a here, I'll show you. Hold on.
They're just laying around, aren't they?
Every character has, I don't know if you can see, but there's they're all assigned, they all have names, of course, and they're all assigned enough, like their strength, right? So, so he can learn that, like, oh, if Cresselia is power is 130, that's stronger than Toxapex's power of 110. And so there's a lot of Pokemon. His birthday party is going to be a Pokemon birthday party. And what else is he?
Of course it.
Yeah, and he does a drama class at his school, so he's definitely the apple hasn't fallen too far from the tree.
Has he done anything so far? A show there?
Yeah, they do shows like the first one they did was based, a show based on The Little Engine That Could, and then the last one they did was The Sneetches, which is a Dr. Seuss book, and
okay.
Yeah, so he really what's interesting is he plays soccer, he plays tennis, he does gymnastics, and he enjoys all those things because they're social, and it's really just having fun at this age. But dramatics is his drama class that he does is the first thing, the first after school activity that he's done where he's asked to do it again and again. So we're like, oh, there's definitely an interest there, which happy to foster,
at that age, there's nothing wrong with, a little love of the arts.
Yeah, of course not. Of course. I mean,
and just make them more comfortable,
yeah,
in front of other people. I mean, does Rob want to put a pen in his hand too?
Well, we do, no, I mean, but we do this fun thing where we call them family stories, where we'll like do a dinner and I'll start a story and Rob will continue it, and then Monty has to add on to it and stuff. So, it's just a way to like kind of keep his imagination going. But
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know you talked about being political, and I know you're very aware of everything going on in our country right now. Does it worry you with the Don't Say Gay bills that some states are enacting?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, I think we were talking a little bit before we started about how we have both lived through some major wins for our community where, when I was in my early 20s, there was no such thing as gay marriage, and Pride was not I mean, it's a little commercialized now, but which is what it is, but it's certainly better than it not being commercialized or it being a niche thing that everyone wasn't aware of and celebratory of. And then we lived through some major wins, right? Where marriage equality became the law of the land. And I think what concerns me about what's happening now is the fragility of our safety, not just for members of the LGBT IAQ community.
Yeah.
But I mean, things that seem to be set in stone and settled law are now suddenly up for debate in a way that they shouldn't be, and it puts everybody at risk. The literal physical safety of women and people in and with these Don't Say Gay bills, like people who think it is okay to bully and mistreat people who are different. It puts those people at risk, because as a grown-up, I have the wherewithal to know that I am secure and comfortable and that my life is going to be fine. But kids don't know that. And I think with bills like this, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we will see an increase in suicide rates and things like that. So it's very concerning.
Yeah, it is very concerning. And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about these issues, talk about being proud.
Yeah.
Pride Month kicks off today. When you think about pride, what does it mean to you, Greg?
I think like the words that come to mind are freedom, safety, being able to self-celebrate, without shame, and being able to love, and I think just feel part of a community that's greater than your immediate family, even your extended family, and strong and strength are the other words I think of, because we are a force to be reckoned with, and let them come at us with these "don't say gay" bills and watch what happens.
That's perfection. I love it. Love it. Please tell your husband I loved The Real O'Neills.
I know.
Absolutely. And I only fell in love with it because I, worked with Paula Garces on my block.
Oh yeah.
God, did my husband and I fall in love with that show?
Yeah, he's had some really great shows that he's worked on. He just wrapped on they're doing a prequel to Grease called Rise of the Pink Ladies that's coming out on Paramount.
Oh yeah.
Which was really fun, and I know he really enjoyed that gig. But Real O'Neills for me is still my favorite job that he's ever had.
The cast on that, and I don't know the father's name, the actor.
Oh yeah,
he is on the Connors now, and I love him. And I think he was also from Mad Men.
Oh,
if
maybe.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but Martha Plimpton and Noah Gilligan and every BB Wood, right, was the sister. Yeah,
so amazing.
Yeah, that was a great show. He's worked with David and Casey. He developed the show with them, and then has worked with them again and again. They're terrific, and he loves them. Yeah, but so goes, right? Sometimes great shows only last a few seasons.
Yeah, but putting them out there for people to see and experience what the character Noah played, had to deal with.
Yeah,
is so important. And
allowing the family to take their journey, and to not immediately be okay with the circumstances that they're faced with, and just but they love their kid and they took the journey, and that's what it should be about. So
loved it.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure.
Thank you, Alan.
I'm gonna take a quick picture of us because I'm gonna post this later.
All right,
I'll count us down. 1, 2, and Greg, a pleasure. Really. Thank you so much for spending the time. Happy 6th. Many of the fans said happy birthday to Monty.
Thank you.
So,
and sorry, go on.
Continued success, my friend.
Thanks. And thank you again for having me. The pleasure was mine. And thank you to everybody who joined us today.
There's a lot of them. They love you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Greg Rikaart, for stopping by and joining. Tune into The Young and the Restless weekdays on CBS. You know where to find Days of Our Lives as well on NBC. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not done so. Please join me tomorrow to meet photographer Lindsay Morris and the kids from Camp I Am as we continue to celebrate Pride here in the Locker Room. Have a great evening, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow.